Hello, I'm an American. My name is Jack. I'm choosing to begin my story in 2018, as that is the year I decided to move to Thailand. I had actually been planning to only visit Thailand on holiday with my brother and his wife. We were planning to stay for a month, but due to various stressful circumstances in my life, I decided I would try to start over in the land of smiles. I was a 32-year-old student living and working in Orange County, California. Although Southern California is a beautiful place, I was struggling to make ends meet due to my awful salary and the extremely high cost of living. To make matters worse, I had just gone through a terrible breakup with my long-term girlfriend. I was reaching my breaking point. I needed something to change. I was graduating from university in May of that year. One night, over some beers, I made a split-second decision to live and teach in Thailand. I was so tired of being broke all the time. I figured I'd rather see the world as a broke traveler than stay in my depressing apartment working in a job I hated. Plus, with my new degree, I wanted to take a chance teaching in Thailand. Leading up to my graduation, I became obsessed with researching everything about Thailand. I began to dream about my life and what it would be like living in the land of smiles. I planned everything from the Airbnbs, hostels, ferry crossings, even down to the places we would eat. I knew I wouldn't be seeing my brother and sister-in-law for a long time, so I wanted to make the trip as special as possible. I graduated on May 19th, and by May 27th, we were flying to Singapore. The itinerary I created for the three of us had us landing in Singapore, backpacking up through Malaysia to Thailand. I booked lodging in Johor Bahru, Kuala Lumpur, and Penang, then flying from Penang, Malaysia, to Phuket. I know this is not a Malaysian YouTube channel, so I won't go over the incredible experiences I had there. The one experience I feel is worth mentioning is the morning we were scheduled to take a bus from Johor Bahru to Kuala Lumpur. We were running late to the bus station. The bus I planned for us to take was leaving at 12:15 p.m., and it was already 11:50 a.m. when we arrived at the station. We still had to manage to purchase our tickets, so we were all feeling a bit stressed. The lounge speaker was screeching in a different language at a volume that was making my head spin, and the massive crowd of people bustling about wasn't helping matters. I was trying to figure out the ticket machine when my brother's wife said she didn't want to rush and that we should take the 12:45 bus instead, which was 30 minutes later. We argued a bit, but in the end, I reluctantly agreed, and we booked the later bus. It was about an hour into our journey when we realized how lucky we were. Yes, the 12:15 bus had a major collision with a lorry. Online, they reported 3 dead and about 20 injured. My brother's wife was so adamant about taking the later bus. I have no doubt it was her intuition that saved us that day. We arrived in Phuket and did the normal tourist things. I booked a resort for my brother and his wife as a surprise. They had an excellent time, and I was happy for them. But I was feeling a bit lonely being around them and all the other couples in the various places we went to. I went out to a couple of bars, but because of my research, I was a bit overly cautious when talking with bar girls. In the end, I decided to try dating in our next destination, Bangkok. I wasn't really looking for a one-night stand, rather someone to show me around the local areas instead of the tourist traps. I had booked our Bangkok accommodation for 2 weeks, staying only 3 nights in each Airbnb in several different areas throughout the city. This gave us an excellent taste of the local areas. I decided to use a dating app to get more of a local perspective, as I knew I would be living in Thailand. I was desperate to get away from the typical foreigner scene and discover something special. I put on my dating profile that I wasn't looking for sex, and that my motivation was to discover local Thai food, history, and music. I was shocked how many women wrote to me online, initiating a meetup. I'm from America, as said, where you can send out 100 messages and maybe get a few generic responses. But in Thailand, it's a whole different world. I only used the app for 2 days before I connected with Nang. She was 31 and drop-dead gorgeous, but the thing that really got me interested in her was her sense of humor. She had me cracking up every time we chatted online. Needless to say, her English was excellent. After 5 days of chatting, I asked to meet up with her for lunch or dinner. Instead of answering my request with a yes or no, Nang just decided to change the subject. I felt a bit let down because I was going to be heading to Chiang Mai with my brother and his wife in 2 days for a week, and I really wanted to meet her again before that. I told her I would be in Chiang Mai for a week, and that I would still message her every day. She laughed and teased me, saying that I was only going there to visit my wife. Chiang Mai was great. We were there during the 2018 World Cup, so, of course, Being a football fanatic, it was pretty much heaven on earth for me. Nang and I would message throughout the days and nights, while I was discovering one of the most magnificent cities I'd ever been to. The temples and the nature alone are worth the trip. The people in the north were so warm and inviting. One night, I got drunk with 3 old men I saw gambling in front of a shop house. They tried to direct me to a bar, but I told them I wanted whatever they were drinking. I was half joking, but they were quick to offer me a seat. The television was tuned into a Thai boxing fight. The upcoming fight was between a Frenchman and a Thai. The old men began shouting at me, saying I had to bet on the foreigner. I told them I don't bet, but they didn't care, so I figured, when in Rome. All the old men put money on the Thai fighter. I realized that the French fighter was 5 kilos heavier and a good bit taller than the Thai fighter. I was thinking, this is hardly fair. Sure enough, the poor Thai fighter was on the canvas in no time and couldn't manage to stand up. So the Frenchman won. The old men started yelling at the TV angrily as they all started pushing their money towards me. I told them it was just for fun, and I couldn't take their money as they were already giving me free alcohol. That didn't matter to them. They seemed thrilled to have me as a guest. As the wife of one of the old men came out from a back room, the old men began to collect their things, and I could tell she was ready for a boys' night out. To finish, I started walking back to my room, which was only about 3 kilometers away. To my shock, one of the old men was a tuk-tuk driver, and his tuk-tuk was parked at the side of the shop. He yelled at me to get in and told me that he didn't want me walking the streets late at night due to all the crazy drivers. I'm aware of the irony. Part of me wanted to refuse, but then I felt a rush of excitement and got in. He drove me to my Airbnb and again refused to accept any money. His smile was so kind and gentle. I can't help but smile thinking back on that reckless night. I was having an excellent time with my brother and his wife in Chiang Mai, but was counting the days when I'd be flying back to Bangkok and decided to be more direct with Nang. I called her while she was on her break at work. I told her I wanted to see her as soon as I landed and that we had been talking for almost 3 weeks now, and it was time for a face-to-face meeting. She just replied, "Okay." I was beyond excited as our plane approached Don Muang Airport in Bangkok. I rushed the 3 of us to our new Airbnb, which was in the Bangor area. My brother and his wife were a bit skeptical for me to be meeting up with a person I met online in a foreign country, but they were also happy to get some time alone. I was getting ready for my date with Nang when I was hit with a flood of doubt. My confidence had taken a beating over the past few years, and a part of me felt like maybe this experience would end in me being disappointed or Nang not liking me. I took a few deep breaths and told myself that this was my new life, and I wasn't going to be the sad guy sitting at home feeling sorry anymore. After my little pep talk to myself, I was on a motorbike to the BTS to meet Nang at the CM BTS station. As the wind poured through my hair, my doubts seemed to be quickly disappearing. If you've spent time in Bangkok, you'll understand the complexity that is the CM BTS station, as it is a meeting point for 3 train lines. That being said, I was able to navigate through the crowd up the escalator to where Nong said she would be waiting for me. I had already made up my mind that if she wasn't as beautiful as she was in her pictures online, I wouldn't feel let down. I would try to enjoy the experience. As I walked through the crowd, I saw her. She was looking out across the city. I was shocked. If I'm being honest, my first emotion was fear. I knew from the moment I saw her, I wasn't going to be able to ever say goodbye. She was far, far more beautiful in person than her pictures. Nang turned and recognized me, and with a big Thai smile said, "Hello." I just looked at her with a dumb grin. I couldn't seem to put my words together for several minutes. We just sat and looked at each other and giggled like teenagers. After I'd composed myself, we walked and talked. We must have walked 10 kilometers. It was starting to get dark, and Nang suggested we eat. Before our face-to-face meeting, we both went out of our way not to answer too many personal questions so we would have more things to talk about on our first date. We continued to walk as Nang responded to my continuing curiosities. She's a typical traditional Thai girl. She works as a loan officer for a foreign bank in Bangkok. Her parents live in Chonburi, and she's been living on her own for about 7 years in Bangkok. The salaries here in Thailand are terrible, even for those who have a bachelor's or even a master's degree. So Nang is very careful with money. When we ate dinner, she insisted that she pay, and in the end, we agreed to split the bill. Before I had a chance to blink, It was midnight. It was obvious that both of us didn't want the night to end. Being a good girl, Nang suggested we meet the following day. I was relieved that the interest wasn't only from my side. We said our goodbyes, and it was then that I kissed her. Luckily for me, she went along with it. I told my brother and his wife about the day. They were a bit skeptical, but in the end, they congratulated me. By this time, we had a little over a week left on our 30-day tourist visa. I knew I would be extending my 30-day visa to a 60-day visa, but I needed to begin sorting out where I would be staying. I had saved up $5,000, and I had also booked an English TEFL teaching course in Koh Samui. The problem was that my course wasn't going to start until September, and at this point, it was only June. This meant my money had to stretch 4 months, provided I would get a teaching job as soon as I completed my teaching course. After I explained this to Nang, she offered to let me stay at her condo as long as we didn't sleep together. I told her that I was happy to accept that offer. Nang was surprised that I agreed to take things slow. Previous to me coming to Thailand, I had casually dated a few different women, but my experiences were quite unfulfilling. Nang was so interesting, kind, and beautiful. I had no interest in getting into anything until she was ready. As the next months passed by, I was living with Nang. I eventually said goodbye to my brother and his wife. They decided to extend their visas as well. I was so happy. Nang and I were able to take them out for dinner before they headed back to the States. Just like that, it was just me in the country of Thailand, and the only person I knew was Nang. I could write a series of books on the complexities of dating a Thai woman, but I will just say this. Thai women are so different from Western women. It's almost like dating a third gender. Nang took care of me like I was royalty. That being said, like many beautiful women here, Nang had an explosive temper. We had our share of arguments and issues with jealousy. But in the end, we worked through it all. I was happier than I had ever been in my life. Although I told Nang this daily, she still assumed I would just leave and find somebody that was more beautiful than her. That was our biggest struggle, her thinking I would leave her. I'm aware that this kind of jealousy is a deal breaker for many men. At times, I felt like it wasn't going to work, but I was able to put her jealousy into context. What I mean is that women in Thailand have a much different experience than Western women with regards to cheating men. I communicated that if she was to continue with her jealousy, it would have a negative effect on our relationship. She listened to my concerns, and she slowly was able to trust me. September came. My teaching course began, and to my surprise, I had a job offer at a private school in Bangkok. In the first week of the 4-week course, the job paid more than I expected, 40,000 baht to start. By the time my course finished, my money was dwindling down. Looking back, I have nothing but gratitude for all the things that went right. In addition to the decent salary that my job offered, they also would manage all the complications of obtaining a work permit and reimburse me for all visa costs. I was riding high. Nang was helping me with money, and now I was just happy to return the favor. In February of 2019, 8 months into our relationship, I asked Nang to meet me after work, to get dinner at a restaurant near the CM BTS station. As we stepped off the train, I walked to the edge of the platform. She was wondering what I was doing, but figured I was just trying to get a nice picture of the beautiful skyline like I always do. As she walked towards me, I got down on one knee and asked her to marry me. There were people all around us trying to act like they didn't see what was happening. Nang's eyes began to flood as she responded yes. It's now 2021, and our wedding is going to be on November 14th. I know it may seem foolish to propose marriage only after 8 months of dating, but I just knew our relationship is far from perfect. But we've both matured and grown well together.